what is the main benefit for the students in using this book over other more classic textbooks for AP biology?
I'll start because I actually moved from Campbell to this book. And so, what I discovered was that we actually started with Raven, then moved to Campbell, then moved to this book. So I had to think back 13 years. My students found Campbell not readable, because I would assign them reading to do. And granted, it wasn't a lot of reading, but they wouldn't do it. They were just like, God, Mrs. Ferguson, this is terrible, and they really didn't like it very much. And so when it was time to adopt a new textbook, what I wanted was something conceptual. I wanted something that, had good graphics, something that would allow me to teach the kids more skills, which I wasn't getting with the version of Campbell that I was using. I wanted something that the students could actually use that was user-friendly for both them and for me. And so, pardon me, in fact, one of my kids today said, oh yeah, I really like the diagrams in the book because they're very helpful in explaining, today we're learning about cell respiration. And so the kids were, talking after school about how much they enjoyed looking at the diagrams in the book because they helped really, elucidate something that's so complex and so abstract, for them, because this is the first exposure they've had to it at a very deep level, because admittedly in our 9th grade courses, they don't cover it very well. They just don't, and it's because of our standards. But I like it because it's something that is user-friendly for the kid. And so to me, that's a really important consideration, because ultimately that's what they take home at night. That's what they work from. And I think you have to consider your student. Look at it from the eyes of the student when you're trying to select a textbook or any kind of curriculum resource. How are your kids going to use it? How are they going to view it?
I sound like a broken record, but let me just piggyback on what Lee said. When I was asked to get involved with the first edition and working on the toolkit, I actually had my students take the textbook and compare it to Campbell, which I had used for I don't know how many editions, and they said exactly what Lee just said. I think the words they used were, it's so much more concise, it's readable, and it's very interesting. And to me, the best word was, I can use this book. I mean, that was their comment. It's appealing to me, and I can actually use this textbook. And as we all know, kids today don't want to read textbooks. So that's the thing I find to be the most useful about the book. It's a real book to them, so they're willing to use it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a dense book in terms of the amount of content, but it's readable as opposed to some other texts that are dense and obtuse. And also in terms of, you think about this connection between student and teacher, because so many great resources are curated by the authors of the Annotated Teachers Edition. It allows you can help guide your students to the best stuff that's on the internet and the best stuff that's at HHMI Biointeractive, instead of you having to sit there and curate the stuff yourself. Much of that work is done for you, and that allows you to focus your kids on the things that are proven to work, that have worked for other folks in your position, and that just saves you a bunch of time.
Exactly.
Yep.
Thank you, guys. This is a question that actually a couple people had asked about in the chat already. So how would you convince your district the value of having a new textbook for AP biology?
If your textbook is too old, your audit won't pass. Again,
I'm
taking the attitude of a consultant, and that was very flippant. I apologize for making the answer like that, but it's critical that kids have up-to-date information. And one of the things that we were told when we were working on this was that as links are no longer, if links break, that the publishers are going to fix that. You've always got something that is up-to-date, and if it goes away, so to speak, on the internet, we're going to find something to replace it with. So It just incorporates the new technology with the QR codes and the links, and that just makes it more appealing to the students as well. So that's what it's all about, something that they can use.
Yes, and to go along kind of with what Bobbie said, and honestly, I don't think that what you said was flippant at all, because my situation was that we were getting ready to turn in an audit syllabus, and I was asked, oh, hey, you need to put on this syllabus that you're going to use this textbook. And I said, no, it's too old. And I had to go through and explain to several different administrators, if we don't have a current textbook, we don't pass audit. If we don't pass audit, we can't call this AP. And then where are all our students going to go? And so, you know, hopefully y'all don't have to get into a situation where you basically have to strong arm an administrator and say, look, but unfortunately that was my situation. And then going along with what Bobbie said, you're going to have a resource that is basically a living resource. It's something that's going to be consistently updated as long as, you know, as long as new information becomes available, and if things, you know, if links break or become out of date, they're going to be updated or replaced with something new, which, you know, doesn't happen with other textbooks probably. I'm only speaking for this textbook because I don't know what the other companies do, but you know, it's great to have a resource that is up to date whenever you need it.
And you could even make the argument that if it's at a district level, do we value our students and do we value the culture inside of our classrooms? Do we want to work with an out-of-date textbook that's inaccurate, or do we want to provide a resource that students can use that actually reflects the best of modern science? I mean, I know that the book that I'm using right now makes no mention of Neil Shubin and Tiktaalik. You know, that was that got missed, and it's interesting to note that, I mean, there will always be new discoveries made in biology. That's one of the cool things about working in this field. But you want to, I would think that, you know, a 7-year adoption cycle is probably too slow, but to wait any longer than that is almost criminal because the books are out of date, the ideas are out of date, and I think as the educators and the administrators, we need to model that dynamic approach to doing science, and we need new books that reflect the best of our knowledge as opposed to old books that are 10 or 15 years out of date that reflect what we knew in the latter part of the 20th century. That's just not fair to kids. I think the idea might be, well, why don't we just use web resources and build our own book? Well, you could do that, but you don't have 20 people working in concert and peer reviewing each other to put the best resources out there. You know, textbooks cost money because people really have to work to ground truth the information and wordsmith the narrative and make it as good as possible. Mm-hmm. And it helps kids be more successful in the class. There, I said it.
At CFW, we can provide you with materials. Either we are just going from some questions that I've received in the chat so far. We do have an ebook. We have a teacher's edition ebook as well. We actually have multiple ebooks. We can give you a sample chapter of the teacher's edition to show with your administrators. We can come talk to your administrators, present it to them. Provide professional development, anything that can really smooth the transition for you guys and help you convince the decision maker. We can help with that. So if you need any more information on that, you can send an email to me. I think you guys all should have my email address. If not, it's at the end of the presentation. But I just want to let you know that I can help you with anything that you need.